Dropshipping is still one of the fastest growing business models that thousands of young entrepreneurs are already doing extremely profitable. And if you look at the market size, the figures are enormous. The global dropshipping market size was valued at $367 billion in 2024 and is expected to grow from $471 billion in 2025 to reach $3,479 billion, that is 3.47 trillion by 2033. And this corresponds to a compound annual growth rate of 28%. So we can see that there is a lot of money in this market, so wouldn't it be horrible if you as a hardworking entrepreneur had to pay 30 to 50% taxes on top of your already very tight profit margins? The good thing is paying as low as absolutely zero taxes on an e-commerce business can generally be pretty easy if you keep the structure clean and set it up properly. How, you may ask now? Let's dive in. We will explore multiple different scenarios during this video. First, if you are the average dropshipper delivering your goods from China directly to your customers, then one structure in particular is very efficient and easy and can't cause many problems. It entails becoming a tax non-resident in your high-tax home country and getting residency in either a 0% tax country or one with a territorial tax system. And then you can operate your business through a pass-through entity like a US LLC or UK LLP, and essentially a pass-through entity won't be tax liable where it's incorporated, and all of the profits will just get passed on to you. And if that type of income won't trigger any personal or corporate tax liability anywhere, then you are 100% tax-free on those profits. And there are many jurisdictions where you could move to and from where you could operate your e-com business completely tax-free. So Dubai can certainly be an option, but it's by far not the only one. Another cost and time efficient one that's very popular currently is a Paraguayan permanent residency. But there are many more that can be chosen based on your personal lifestyle preference, cost and other requirements, of course. If you actually need to live there at all will depend less on the country you are choosing though, and more on the requirements of your home country to deregister and become non-tax liable. So if you can leave your home country without needing a tax resident certificate from another country, then technically no stay in another country is required and you can freely travel the world. Now all of this is harder if your operations require you having a local warehouse, employees in a country, or engaging in other trade or business locally, and especially in the country you incorporated your company in. But this doesn't mean that you can't have clients locally, but having so-called dependent agents. And essentially these are people or operations hired or set up specifically working for you only. And if you would need to hire employees or have a warehouse locally, then this can sometimes be solved with a second staffing company to separate the local operations out from the company that handles the payments and client. And all this becomes a completely different scenario if you want to stay in your home country full time. Then the question arises, can you set up an offshore company in a no tax or low tax jurisdiction and manage a company from your home country? This could certainly be possible, but it depends largely on the CFC rules enforced by the country you are actually living in. And essentially you might need to set up sufficient economic substance in the country of incorporation to not get any problems with the tax authorities. Also, pass-through entities are most likely useless in this scenario. Essentially each country has its own rules on foreign-owned corporations, so you must always take a close look at the CFC rules in the respective country. Another thing we need to do in this analysis is to distinguish between US citizens and residents and everyone else in the world. One important factor to decide where you want to incorporate an e-commerce business is also payment processing. And essentially fees can vary a lot depending on where your business is located, and many popular offshore destinations like Panama, British Virgin Islands, and all these kinds of destinations don't even have access to good processor. And even Dubai companies can get hit with much higher processing fees for payments than the average you would pay in the US or UK. So keep in mind this is 1 to 2% of revenue, and 1 to 2% of revenue can be about 5 to 10% of profit for an e-commerce business, considering the average profit margin of only 20%. Also, a UAE PayPal account will need to be settled into the local currency, so on top of the high fees, they will also rip you off with ridiculous exchange rates. And the key here would definitely be to operate through a pass-through entity, and such an entity could be owned by an offshore company like a UAE free zone company if you need an intermediary to go between you and the pass-through entity. We most certainly recommend either a US LLC or a UK LLP, and which one is the best for you depends on your specific operations, of course, vision for the future, and where your clients are located. And with a UK LLP, for example, you get easier access to the European VAT system and to European payment providers like Molly and Klarna and even PayPal. A US LLC is better suited if you are selling to US clients and want access to US banks and credit institutions. And what a lot of people don't know is through a US LLC you can even get an individual taxpayer identification number, the so-called itIN, which then allows you to build personal credit in the US and get some of the best credit cards like the Amex Platinum. And essentially, many credit cards in the US have very, very high multipliers, for example on ad spend, and the multipliers are much higher than on European cards, for example. So as you can see, there can be many advantages to building these types of structures, and if you are interested in structuring this for yourself and your e-commerce business, contact us through the link in the description. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, see you in the next one, bye.